Welcome Ji. Today we are moving on with topic 1.5. This is still first chapter. Yesterday we talked about the program, portfolio and project, the relationship and organizational project management. Today we are moving on with the differences between the project management and operations management, and naturally we'll talk about organizational strategy. So welcome Shahid. We were missing you. जी शायद आपको आवाज आ रही है? Okay, I think Shahid cannot hear us. I don't know. We cannot see his mic. Anyways, I'll move on. In this chapter, we are definitely talking about what the operational management is. Then we have got certain operational stakeholders, and those stakeholders will somehow be affecting the projects, and therefore we must consider them in project management also. Then organizations in project management, we will talk about project-based organizations. Then the link between the project management and organizational governance. This is an important topic, organizational governance. And lastly, the relationship between the project management and the organizational strategy. Again, a very important topic. So operations, as we have been talking before, operations are something which is the lifeblood of the organization. Rather, I would say this is the oxygen on which the organization is running. If you cease the operations of an organization, that organization cannot live any further. So without operations, an organization cannot function. So this is the organizational function, and it performs the ongoing execution of activities that produce the same product or provide a repetitive service. Meaning what? Yes, Shahid.
Hello.
Yes, Shahid.
Sir, I'll not be able to join today. I'm
Okay.
actually occupied. So I'll appreciate if you can upload today's session afterwards so that, when I come back, I can give it.
No problem. Whenever you are free, you can join us, even if it is late, but I'll upload the session and you can make use of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right. So I was talking about the operations. So as I was saying, it is different from project because operations are repetitive in nature. They are producing the same product or service which they are supposed to be doing through the standard operating procedures. Therefore, this is something continuous. This is ongoing execution, and this is how an organization earns its bread. If there are no operations, there is no organization. So although we are talking about project management here, but still operations management has its own role in an organization, and without the oxygen, an organization will not be able to survive, and this is the oxygen of an organization. As far as projects are concerned, change is concerned, well, if we do not conduct projects, if we do not bring change into the organization will survive. It will still function, but naturally it will start deteriorating, and over a longer period of time, the organization will diminish. But without operations, it cannot survive for a single moment. Therefore, we must not underestimate the importance of operations. Operations management is responsible for overseeing, directing, and controlling the business operations, and these are the business operations which actually run the organization. Operations evolve to support day-to-day business. How do they evolve? How do the operations evolve? Naturally, we feel that this operation can be enhanced or improved, and we decide to evolve the operation through change, and change naturally would be brought in through the projects or organizational project management. So there is a relationship between projects and operations. Whenever there is a change to be brought into an organization, into the running operations, we have to resort to project management. Operations are necessary. Why? Because they are achieving whatever the targets of the organization or the business are. Projects, as I was just discussing, though they are temporary, but they play a very important role. They can help achieve those organizational goals when they are aligned with the organization strategy. And what is organizational strategy? This is realigning itself with the trends, with the environment, with the changing environment. So when organization initially devised its strategy and operations were built around it, that was the state of the art. But later on, the environment of the organization changed. Organization changed the strategy, and when they change the strategy, they tend to bring change into the organization to modernize, to keep up with the changing world. And naturally, operations need to change, but they cannot be changed because operations are static in nature, they are repetitive. So we have to do something through the projects, bring the change, and ultimately that change will be inducted into the day-to-day business of the organization, that is the operations. So organizations sometimes change their operation, product or systems by creating strategic business initiatives, and these are the strategic business initiatives which are covered by OPM. Operation management is a subject area that is outside the scope of formal project management. Naturally, we are not going to study operations management in project management except for these few lines, these few comments we are making about operations. But naturally, the importance of operational management cannot be underestimated. So this deals with ongoing operation. This involves business operations continue efficiently by using optimum resources needed and meeting customer demands. Then it is concerned with managing processes. And what do the processes do? We understand every process has got certain inputs. Every process does some work on it, and then it converts into outputs. So there are products coming out of every process, but the processes of operation, they produce repetitive outputs, while the processes of projects, they produce unique products or outputs. There are certain things which are common in projects and operations, like both require people to perform them, both require resources, and wherever there are resources used, there is always constraint by the resources. Resources are always limited because whenever there is more demand of something, the supply is automatically reduced. So if you are using a certain kind of resource, that is destined to go short on supply. So projects are using resources, operations are using resources, Yes, Ali. Just a minute, Ali. Yes, Ali. Cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah,
Can you hear me?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, regarding the relationship between projects and operations, for example, we are like doing a project for any like for automobile company. We are just producing. We are which have to be like in some operations. There are some like components that are like in daily basis operation. For example, wheels and any parts of there. Now, if we are using some outputs of the operation in the project, so that particular area of the operation should be dealt as a project
No, no,
because some key outputs from the operations are like using in the project as an input.
no. First of all, whatever is the output of the project, the deliverable of the project is usually adopted by operations, and when it is adopted by operations, it becomes part of the operation. So the operations change to accommodate that deliverable and make it their procedure. It is no more a project. It is then to be used by the operation. But if you mean that project is also continuing and operation is also working and you are producing something while the project is going on and it is being used by operation, even then the story remains the same because the deliverable which has come out of the project is now being used by the operation. As soon as it gets into the operation, it becomes the property of the operation, and then all dealing with that product would be the operational responsibility, and how to deal with that deliverable should be part of the operations, should be amended into the operations.
Sir, this is the vice versa case. For example, the output of the operations like will be the input of the project.
Yeah, of course that will
Uh,
be. Because whenever you start a project, you have to start from somewhere. All the resources and a lot many things you are getting from the operation. That is exactly written here somewhere, and like occurs through transfer. Yeah, it occurs through transfer of project resources to operations toward the end of the project. When a project ends, it gives something to the operation. Then deliverables and knowledge is transferred between the two through a transfer of operational resource to project at the start of the project. You see, both ways. It works both ways. In the last sentence, it says through the transfer of operational resources to the project at the start of the project. And once the project has produced something, occurs through transfer of project resource back to operations towards the end of the project. So both ways is possible.
So in that case, the operation part, the output shouldn't be dealt as a project or some sort of a project component.
No, no, no. Once the project has done its job, all the leftovers, all the deliverables are then the property of the operation. Operation has to adopt it. Similarly, when a project starts, it has to start from somewhere and it gets a lot of inputs from the operations.
Okay.
Right. So we were talking about the constraints. So resources will always be constraints. You would observe that whenever there is something in high demand that goes into shortage. Exactly, in organization, whichever resource is in high demand, say projects also demanded, operations also demanded, and therefore you will be constrained because there will be high demand on that item from both sides, and therefore it has to be rationed. Whether it is a project or an operation, both have to be planned, executed, and controlled. There is a monitoring and control even in operations. There is a planning even in operations. But the difference is that operations do not have a start point and they do not have an ending point. While the projects do, they have initiation, they have closing, but in operations there is no plan, no initiation or closing. They are planned, executed, and controlled. Then again planned, executed, and controlled. And this cycle continues. Both of these projects and operations are for the organizational strategy. They do align themselves with the organizational strategic objectives in their own way. Both are serving the same master. Both are working towards achievement of the same objectives, but in a different way. Projects through bringing change, operations through repetitive production of whatever the deliverable they are producing. The differences between the two, naturally they are very simple. Project requires the art and science of project management to manage the projects effectively and efficiently, while the operations have so many other things. Operational management is a much larger subject. Again, as it was said earlier, we are not going to be covering the operational management here because this is not covered in the scope of the project management, but still uh, operations require business process management, operations management, and a lot many other things, other disciplines which specialize in the operations. Projects are temporary undertakings, whereas operation is a permanent work, a continuous work, a repetitive work. So this is ongoing nature. There is an ongoing nature of the operation. There is uniqueness in the products, whereas operations have repetitiveness. The resources available to the project are available on a temporary basis, and these resources do not have a long association. While in operations, the people who are working in a department might be working for a couple of years, and they must not be stranger to each other, and they must even have some kind of relationship or loyalty amongst themselves. Whereas the people working on project are coming here for on a temporary basis. They may be completely stranger to each other, and it is much more difficult to manage and motivate a project team. Projects are executed according to project management plan, whereas operations are done according to the standard operating procedures. Projects attain their objective and they are finished, they terminate, whereas operations do not terminate. They are rather there to sustain the business. They provide the oxygen to the organization or the business. Projects conclude when their specific objectives have been met, whereas operations adopt the output of the projects, a new set of objectives, and they keep working continuously forever. So they will keep improving, operations will keep improving but through these the changes projects are bringing, and operations will continue. Projects will not. Projects will finish. As we have already seen, the intersection between project and operations, when a project is finished, the product of the project is adopted by the operations and project is no more. That product is somehow adopted, whatever the product is. It could be a physical, tangible product. It could be, a new procedure, a new way of working. So that will then be adopted into the operations. And when a project is to start, you will need certain inputs from the from the operations, and those inputs will be helpful in doing these projects. You need resources, you need people, you need procedures, things like that. So you will get those things when you are trying to start a project. But once the project has finished, you give the output, whatever it is, to the operations, and then the project closes. Coming over to the operational stakeholders, naturally I did mention something about stakeholders earlier. Stakeholders are extremely important to project management because anyone and everyone who can somehow affect the project or be affected by the project is a stakeholder. But there are some operational stakeholders also who are affecting the operations of the organization in any way. Now these people who are the operational stakeholders, when there is a change to be brought into the organization, some of these operational stakeholders may also become the stakeholders for that change and subsequently to the project. I'm not saying that all the operational stakeholders will be the project stakeholders, but you will find a lot many stakeholders from operational side to be affecting your project. So when you are identifying the stakeholders for your project, you must be very careful and do analyze all the operational stakeholders and check them out if they can be your project stakeholders or not. Need of stakeholders who perform and conduct business operations are important consideration in projects that will affect their future work and endeavor. Project manager who considers and appropriately includes operational stakeholders in all phases of projects gain insight and avoid unnecessary issues that often arise when their input is overlooked. So operational stakeholders might hold a lot of data. They might have some insight about things. They might know things which you otherwise could not know. Operational stakeholders should be engaged and their need identified as part of the stakeholder register. When do we create a stakeholder register? When we are identifying project stakeholders. So do include some of the operational stakeholders in your project, in your stakeholder register, and note down their influence, whether they are positive or negative or whatever, and also consider their input into your risk management plan. Who could be the operational stakeholders? There could be a lot many. People from your organization, they could be plant operators, they could be help desk staff, they could be salespersons, maintenance workers, and so on and so forth. So these all are the people who are working within the organization, are affecting the organizational working. So these people may also be able to affect the project you are trying to do. Then coming over to the organizations and the project management. Now there is a very interesting point, and that is organizations use governance to establish strategic direction and performance parameters. Now this is getting interesting. Organizations do have strategic direction and they keep changing this strategic direction, and naturally our strategy changes along with that. But whatever is the strategic direction, there must be a mechanism to enforce that everything happening in the organization is in alignment with that strategic direction. And for that, we need to have a governance mechanism. You might have heard about good governance and bad governance. What is this governance? Governance is kind of lawmaking at the top level in the organization, and it is not only the laws written in a book. They must be enforceable laws. All the functioning of the organization, whatever is happening in the organization, whether their operations or their projects or whatever is happening within the organization, must be dealt with under this governance structure or this law. Who makes the law? Who makes the governance structure? Naturally, it is done at the very top level. So these are the policies or orders or regulations which are enforceable. Now, what about the enforceability? If I have got rules, I have got laws within the organization, and I am not enforcing them in the right spirit, then it will be poor governance. First of all, governance should be such that it should be doable. Secondly, it should actually happen. We should not ignore, these laws and regulations. And thirdly, there must be a system of, reward or punishment or whatever if somebody follows or does not follow this governance structure. It's just like, there is a law that you cannot drive a car without a seat belt. Now this is definitely according to the governance structure of whatever city or country you are living in, this is what is supposed not to happen. No person should be driving a car without a seat belt. But if nobody ever checks, then people will start ignoring this feature. If there is a system, proper policing, proper checkups, and you are fined for your mistake, then people will start abiding by the law. What if the police is active, but they are not allowed to punish, are not allowed to, you know, penalize these guys who are breaking the law, or for that matter, the judiciary or the people who are supposed to be giving the punishment, they are not giving the punishment. Actually, there are three pillars. One is the body which is forming these laws. The other is the body which is checking these laws, and the third is the body which is, providing the justice on these laws. So all three pillars must be working efficiently if we want to have a good governance. And good organizations do have good governance, a very effective mechanism of implementing these laws and regulations. Okay, I think we lost the voice for some time. How much have you heard before? Can someone write it down in chat window? Can you hear me now? Okay, so right. So what I was saying was, there has to be a governance structure in whatever organization you are in. There must be some laws. There must be somebody who must be checking them, and there must be a fair judicial system by which somebody can be punished or rewarded. If all of these three items are working in an organization, it is good governance. If any one of these does not work, then it is not a good governance. Number one, you do not have the laws. Number two, the laws are not being checked. Number three, laws are being checked, but people are not awarded or rewarded or punished for whatever they have done. So the effective mechanism would be that all three elements are existing and working. The strategic direction provides the purpose, expectations, goals, and actions necessary to guide business pursuit and is aligned with business objectives. So whatever the governance structure is, that is in alignment with the organizational goals and objectives, and we are pursuing the strategic direction of the organization. So our governance structure should be such which should facilitate, which should ensure a good governance towards that direction. Project management activities should definitely be aligned with the top level business decisions. So it is not only the project management, even the operational work must also be aligned with the organizational strategy. But as I said before, the operational work, if it is not properly aligned and the strategy have changed, then probably it will take some time while we do a project, bring the change and then implement into the operations. Operations will not change suddenly. Operations will take some time to change. But a proper system of governance will ensure that project management activities are done consistently, and the change, the sustainability, the transition from one state to the other is seamless. If there is a change, then project objectives need to be realigned. If strategy changes, project objectives will also change, and ultimately we will continuously be pursuing the right direction. In a project environment, changes to project objectives affect the project's efficiency and success. Now, only talking about the project, now not talking about the operations. If a project has a certain strategic objective, it is moving towards that, and certainly the project objectives are changed. Naturally, whatever the plans you have made and howsoever what you're doing and performing the project, your efficiencies will be affected because the whole plan is going to be amended as per the change. That does not matter, but you see, your efficiency and success will definitely be affected, and you have to realign yourself. When the business alignment for a project is constant, if it does not change, if there is no change, the chances for project success greatly increases because the project remains aligned with the strategic direction of the organization. The problem rises when right in the middle of the project objectives are no more aligned with the organizational goals or objectives because they have changed. So should something change, project should change accordingly. And naturally, we are only talking about projects here, but there is a whole system of projects, programs, and portfolios. And I have already explained to you earlier that portfolios are the first ones who bear the blunt of the change. They are tied back to back with the strategy. If strategy changes, the portfolio changes its direction. And if portfolio changes its direction, it will re-evaluate all the projects and programs within the portfolio, and it may decide to kill certain projects which are no more required, or may like to realign the project objectives with the new strategy. Definitely, as said in point 1, the project efficiency and success will be affected in that case, but ultimately we will be able to realign the project. If it cannot be realigned, it must be terminated. Now, talking about the project-based organization. What is a project-based organization? You might have heard about different organizational structures like functional, matrix, and projectized, which we will talk more about. But first, let me explain what a PBO is. Project-based organizations. Previously, we used to call this as task forces. In olden times, this was called as task forces. Task force was not really a project, but it was, in any kind of an organization, if a small little assignment is to be done, few people from different departments or subsets of the organization could be earmarked to do that job under one person. So they would be extracted from the organizational structure and would be dedicatedly allowed to do their job on this assignment. This type of task force is called a project-based organization. It could be a small team, it could be a large team. But whatever it is a temporary structure. It only works for the small duration. It is accomplishing its objective. And a PBO could be, as I said, 2 or 3 people working towards an objective, and they have been segregated from their functional duties, no matter what kind of organization structure they are existing, but they have been separated from that structure and they have been assigned that job. Or it could even be a larger structure. The whole organization could be a PBO for some time. Maybe there is a school which has been, during the elections, the function of the school has been changed to election office. So all the staff of the school for that short duration of time would become project-based organization for the conduct of elections. And after the elections, they will again revert back to their original duties of running the school. The use of PBOs may diminish the hierarchy because the previous hierarchy does not matter any further. The departments they were coming, and these people have come out of, they do not affect them because now they have got a new boss for this temporary period and they have got a new job. But once they get back to their departments, then they revive the old hierarchy and structure. So the hierarchy and the bureaucracy of the organization does not affect them, and that's why such project-based organizations are very successful in whatever the mission is for that project-based objective. Now, these project-based organizations conduct the majority of their work as projects. So whatever they are doing, the PBOs, whatever they are doing, it's like a project. Although we don't really call it a project, but it is like a project, or they provide project rather than functional approaches. So if you don't want to call it a project, then it is more like a project. It is conducted like a project rather than functions. PBOs can refer to either entire firm or network, and I have given you the example of entire firm. Whole school has been converted into an election office, or a complete network. So it is also possible that some large PBOs have functional support areas. If there is a very large PBO, maybe again giving you the example of the school which has been converted into election office, that school may have some functional support areas like the finance, managing the finance of that initiative of that PBO for the period that PBO is existing, managing the human resource. So there could be many functional support areas within the PBO or within the subsidiaries or divisions of a large corporation. I hope I am making some sense out of it. I would rather like to ask you, how much have you received the message from? Gee, anyone who wants to contribute anything before I can start the organizational governance? First you can write in the chat and then I'll open your mic. Ji Atif, anything you want to say?
Sir, it's okay. It's quite understandable.
Okay.
The PBOs and all that.
Right. Mubin, anything from your side? Mubin?
No, sir, Alhamdulillah, it's okay.
Okay, then I think I should continue. I hope I have made it clear. Project-based organization, how does it function? So just to summarize, project-based organization is not a project. It is an organizational structure, it's a temporary organizational structure which is created for a short period of time within an organization. It could be a team of few people, or it can be a whole department, or it could be the whole organization, temporarily working on that assignment for a short period of time. And once they have done their job, they revert back to their original structure. They can exist in any kind of organizational structure. So they are independent of any organizational structure. It does not matter whether it is a functional organization, matrix organization, or a projectized. It could exist anywhere. Now, talking about the organizational governance, as I have already, initiated a little talk about governance earlier, what is our governance? What is governance at organizational level? First of all, look at the governance of a nation, of a country. You keep listening to different politicians talking about the good of governance and bad governance, but I can assure you, none of them really understand what the governance really means. It is just a very attractive word to be speaking in speeches. But governance means, as I said, 3 pillars of governance must be properly coordinated. One, the one who makes the law. Number 2, the one who checks the law. And number 3, the one who does the justice on that. So these 3 pillars must be strong enough. Within the organization, Every organization needs to have a governance structure, and this governance structure will ensure discipline in the organization. And for example, you could have certain laws that I was, once in an organization, IT firm. What I saw when I was there, I saw that they locked their office doors at around 9, and anyone who came late was not allowed to get into the office. And they were opened again, the doors were opened at 10:30 in the morning. So anyone who came late, even 1 minute late, he was not allowed to enter. He could only enter at 10:30, and that would mean that half day's salary has been cut. So this is a beautiful way of enforcing coming on time. You see, there is a check and balance system. There is a punishment for what you are doing. And this is just not a dry threat that nobody will come late. Now, nobody will definitely come late because they know they will be caught. They know they will be punished. So there must be a proper system of governance in an organization, and whatever the laws or rules are, all must be implementable. Projects and programs are undertaken to achieve strategic business outcomes that we know. Many organizations now adopt formal organizational governance processes and procedures. Now, this is important because organizations will be more disciplined and they would be running good governance. Organizational governance criteria can impose constraints on the project. If there is a governance structure, if there is a laws and rules and regulations in an organization which are really being implemented, then it might cause some trouble with the projects. For example, in your organization, there is a strict adherence to time. Like in the example I have given you, nobody can enter the office after 9 till 10:30. Now, you are working on a project and that project requires you to work late at night, and therefore you are likely to come late in the morning. Maybe you are allowed to come at 9:30, but at 9:30 the doors will be closed. So the organizational governance, if we follow that, this person cannot enter the office. But because he is working on the project and he has been working late, he has been allowed to come late. So there must be some mechanism to allow this person to enter. So the door may be opened for this person alone. If we don't do that, the project working will be affected. Particularly if the project delivers a service which will be subject to strict organizational governance. Like this example I have given you, we are constrained by these kinds of governance. But whatever the governance structure is, you are not allowed to break the governance. You are allowed to follow it. Otherwise, this would affect that discipline of the organization. So that is one side of the coin, that organizational governance will impose some constraints on the project and projects have to abide by that. And if at all, your project requires special permissions to do certain things which are against the organizational governance, those special permissions must be sought, and only then exceptions can be made. Project success may be judged on the basis of how well the resultant product or service supports organizational governance. So project will only be declared successful when this is part of the good governance. This is abiding by the organizational governance. Otherwise, we will not call it a successful project. It is important for the project manager to be knowledgeable about the corporate and organizational governance policies and procedures pertaining to the subject matter of the product or services. And there is a very good example given here. It says if an organization has adopted policies in support of sustainability practices, maybe your organization champions the cause of sustainability. They have been part of some initiative and they say that we will do whatever and we will work towards sustainability. Sustainability practices are prime to your organization. Your project may not be, specifically targeting on sustainability practices, but because it is in the organizational governance, so your project will definitely have to abide by the sustainability practices. The project, maybe it involves construction of a new office or building. The project manager should be aware about the sustainability requirements related to the construction of the building, and he must be able to implement it that way. As such, the customer does not require the sustainability practices, but it is the organizational governance which is imposing this additional constraint or requirement which has to be fulfilled like that. Then comes the organizational strategy. Organizational strategy is the one which is providing the guidance and direction to the project management. And how does organizational strategy translate into the guidance and direction to the project management? I'll tell you that. Keeping the organizational strategy in mind, you create the organizational governance structure, and under the organizational governance structure, you need to develop policies and procedures by which everything in the organization will be followed. Now, if you want to do a project in this organization, naturally it will be abiding by the organizational governance and naturally fulfilling the organizational strategy. But for this project, we must develop a framework of project governance. What is project governance under organizational governance? Project governance would be the instructions, or for that matter the rules, policies and procedures you have specified for the project. Although this project governance will come under the larger organizational governance, it will exactly abide by the organizational governance, but it will have more detailed laws and rules specific to the project, and that is exactly what project will have to follow. Now the project management plan we will develop later would actually be exactly in alignment with or according to the project governance structure. So on top there is an organizational strategy. Based on that organizational strategy, we have the organizational governance structure. Under that organizational governance structure, we have rules and regulations. Then for doing a project, I will have to have a project governance structure, and under that project governance structure, we will be able to develop the project management plan. Project sponsor or portfolio or program manager identifies the alignment or potential conflict between organizational strategies and project goals and then communicates these to the project manager. So if at any level your boss finds that there is some conflict between whatever you are doing and what are the organization strategies, he has to put it right. He has to communicate it to the project manager as if he can fix it. If the goals of a project are in conflict with an established organizational strategy, project manager has to document and identify such conflicts as early as possible in the project. You see how important is it to abide by the organizational strategy. We cannot be performing anything without being in alignment with our organizational strategy. If we go out of alignment, we will have to come back or the project must be terminated. Anything which is not in alignment with the organizational strategy has no reason or cause to exist. So this is the responsibility not only of the project manager, but every employee of the organization, and every employee must know what is the organizational strategy he is following. And whenever and howsoever he finds that whatever he is doing is not in alignment with the organizational strategy, he must inform someone, because he might be doing some redundant activities which are not contributed to the cause of the organization. This is not acceptable. Sometimes development of an organizational strategy could be the goal of the project rather than a guiding principle. Now this is interesting that we are governed by the organizational strategy, but what if the purpose of your project is to devise a new organizational strategy? How can you be governed by the organizational strategy you are trying to change? That would be a difficult situation. So if you are trying to re-engineer one of the organizational strategy through your project, then that organizational strategy will not apply to you. Because if it does apply to you, then probably you cannot change it. It is important for the project to specifically define what constitutes an appropriate organizational strategy that will sustain the organization. So project manager, before taking up that project, he must understand that whatever strategy he is trying to design is appropriate for the organization and will be able to sustain the organization. So good so far?
Yes, sir. Everything is good.
Okay, next topic is business value. Now this is, if I don't know if you are really getting me, because the topics we are discussing are very important. We talked about the organizational strategy, we talked about the organizational governance, we talked about operations and projects and lot many other things. And business value is also a very important topic. Now, how do you see what is the business value? Gee, Adris, can you help me on that?
To me, business value means if we have to construct some project, so means what will be the output in terms of business? I think so.
Now, if forget about the project, what is the business value? Well, how do you define a business value?
Means for some organization means
You are running
actually,
you are part of an organization. If I ask you
yes,
what is the business value of your organization?
is what will be the output, means what are their what is the means how I would say this thing, turnover. What is the turnover, or means how our organization perform business. This means what are the rules and regulations they follows during the business, and this type of things I think we usually call business values. Means what are the ethics and
No. You were right when you said the turnover thing, but I'm not talking about the values. I'm talking about value, business value. So, okay, let me change the word. What is the worth of your business at any point in time?
yeah, it could be in amounts, means for example in millions or billions,
Exactly.
like this.
Exactly. That's what business value means. What is the worth of your business at any point in time? How do you assess the business value of an organization? The worth of an organization? Ali, can you help me on that?
Yes, sir, you are absolutely right. Even in the project case, we first identify what is the actually worth of that project, and how it will be beneficial, and what should be the some sort of a turnover, and how it will be profitable in terms of money or in terms of any tangible or intangible things.
Ali, you see, as I said to Adris, forget about project. Forget about project. Talk about organization. Talk about business.
So regarding the organization, for example, any organization, its worth, regarding its shares, regarding its like reputation, regarding its, they're both tangible and intangible things. Regarding its money, its like how much it, like for example, any organization, how much its cost, how much its value,
Okay.
and plus its you can say that it's reputation, that
Right.
how much reputed this organization is. It's all included in this business value.
Right. Wonderful. So you see, this is an organization in which you are working. If I ask you how much is it worth today, so you will look at all the physical assets of the organization and find out the value of each one of those assets, sum them all up. That is one way of giving a value or worth, calculating the worth of your organization. What else? Wasif, can you help me? Physical worth of the organization, naturally, the assets, tangible assets. What else?
Sir, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
You're right. About the business value is the worth of the business. Like as you said, I was first talking about what you actually trying to say to us. Like Coke, the business value of the worth of the Coke, like you can say it's 1 billion, or the worth of the football industry is like 6 trillion for European countries. Other than business value, after the face value of the business, other than that, the business value is related to the norms and values, actually what it is looking for, due to its in line to its strategy or strategic direction.
Okay. No. You have diversified a little. I was talking about the net cash value of your organization. So to ascertain how much, you see, you want to sell your organization today. How much will you ask for?
Yeah, this is correct. It is actually the face value, the monetary value that you are going to sell your business, including assets and after getting your liabilities and your equity out of it.
Exactly. So one is the tangible asset, and then there are some intangible values. There are some intangible values, your trademark, your company name, and a lot many other things. They have got their own worth. So those intangibles also add up, and all the tangibles and intangibles put together will ascertain your organization's today's worth. You got me?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Right. So let us see what business value is. This is a concept unique to each organization. Every organization calculates or ascertains its business value in its own way. It is defined as the entire value of the business, which is the total of all tangible and intangible elements. Tangible could be, physical, monetary assets, fixtures, buildings, office equipment, table, chairs, and equity, bank accounts, all other things, these all are tangibles. They are worth something. But on the other hand, there are certain intangible values like, your brand recognition, your public benefit, trademark and goodwill and whatever. So both of these things put together will ascertain your total worth in the market, your face value, your business value. Now, this is your value today. What do you expect that your value will be after 10 years? Say you have X value today. What will be your value after 10 years? Atif?
10x,
10x.
probably.
Okay. So this you have to determine. Previously, when we were talking about the strategies, when we were talking about the organizational strategy and all that, there we were not talking about the worth of the organization. We were talking about the strategies, we were talking about the direction we want to take, the competition we want to face and all that. But this is a completely different angle. Today my organization is worth this much. I want this organization to grow 10 times in 10 years. This is what Atif said. I want my organization's business value to grow 10 times in 10 years. So if this is your financial target to meet, how are you going to do it in 10 years? You are going to develop a plan, a long-term plan for achieving this 10x value in 10 years. But then you must have some medium-term plans as well. Medium-term plans could be maybe, after every 5 years, you will like to re-evaluate. You will fix targets for your 5-year plans. And your short-term plan could be your yearly plan. So this way, if your long-term target is 10x, your 5-year target might be 5x, your 1-year target might be 1x. So what if you are unable to achieve your 1x target after 1 year? Does that mean you will be able to achieve your long-term target? Probably not. So these short-term targets will show the progress you are making and how well you are aligned with your ultimate objective. If an organization does not look at it from the business point of view, from the worth of the business point of view, then probably strategies are not going to take us everywhere. We have to consider the strategies as well as the business value. This is altogether a different dimension. Somehow we have to align the strategic direction and the business values to benefit both ways. Even countries have long-term, medium-term and short-term plans. Like we have vision for our country, maybe 2050. In 2050 we want to be this much. Then every 5 years we will fix a shorter target for our country to progress. And we will check that 5-year progress through our short-term plans of every year. If we are not meeting those short-term plans, how do you expect to meet your medium-term plan or the long-term plan? We can say we will be the Asian tigers in 2050. But Asian tiger is not performing in its short-term plan. How can it ultimately dream to be the Asian tiger? It cannot be. You cannot be the best economy of the world or even of Asia if you are increasing loans every year and you are not performing at all. Therefore, your short-term plans and medium-term plans are spokesperson for your long-term plan. Value may be created through effective management of ongoing operations. Once you have determined the value, you can create the value. Create the value means you can add worth to your business. You must increase it from 1x to something greater. So how do you do that? By increasing the effectiveness and efficiency of your operations. So if you are trying to improve your operations, this is what we are saying continuous improvement. And continuous improvement is a change, and change would be brought through, again, projects, programs and portfolios. Through the effective use of portfolios, programs and project management, organizations will possess the ability to employ reliable, established processes to meet strategic objectives and obtain greater value. Align both of these things together. You have to achieve the strategic objectives as well as obtain greater value from their project investment. And what is the project investment? This is the change related initiatives. These are the changes you are trying to bring in your organization, and they must contribute not only towards the strategic objectives, but also it must add something to your value. And what must it add? We have already determined 1x in every year. All organizations are not business driven. We agree to that. There are government organizations, there are NGOs, there are other organizations, non-profit type organizations, but all organizations conduct business related activities. If there is a government organization and they say, well, we are not really concerned about the business and we do not make profit and all that, then are they right in saying that? Do you know, even the governments, they have rules of business. Why do they have rules of business? If they have rules of business, it means a government is run like a business. It is like, one country is doing business with another country. We are doing trades, imports and exports and all that. And we are continuously, we should be continuously adding value to our organization or our country. So all organizations, though they are not business driven, but they do conduct business related activities all the time. Even government agencies and NGOs focus on attaining business value for their activities. They may be intangibles or tangibles. I am not really bothered about that, but it must add value. Like you see, if our country is the best economy in the world, that adds value to the country. Like China is rising as a leading economy worldwide. So no matter how you like China, but they are making a mark. They are increasing their business value, whether you like it or not. So they must have some strategic objectives, they must have some business value in mind, and they are very carefully and very intelligently working towards achievement of both. And how do they do that? It is through the organizational project management, through the effective use of portfolios, programs and projects. Then comes the business value realization. How do you realize the business value? Successful business value realization begins with comprehensive strategic planning and management. If you have a target in mind that you will increase the value to 2x next year, then you have to realize that benefit. If you cannot realize that benefit, as I was saying earlier, it is useless. You are just a planner. You are not achieving anything. Organizational strategy can be expressed through an organization's mission and vision, including orientation to markets, competition, and other environmental factors. So all your actions must speak. How are you going towards the realization of your business value? Effective organizational strategy provides defined directions for development and growth in addition to performance metrics for success. So it is essential to use portfolios, projects and programs, techniques in order to bridge the gap between organization strategy and successful business value realization. I have already told you that if you do not consider business value and you only follow the organizational strategy, you might be successful, but you may not add anything to your business value. 10 years later, your strategy could be very fine, but your business value could be exactly the same it was 10 years before. Then there is no business value realization, no value addition to that. But if you can take both of these things together, the organizational strategy will also be fulfilled and the business value will also be realized. How does the portfolio management realize the business value? Portfolio management aligns its components, and its components are projects, programs and other operations. to the organizational strategy. So number one thing is that portfolio management is aligning all its components to the organization strategy, then organized into portfolios and sub-portfolios to optimize the project and program objectives, their dependencies, cost, timeline, benefits, resources, and risks. So it is the portfolio which is more important because it is making the investment decision making. Investment decision making is done here. So financial matters about the project programs are done here. This allows the organization to have an overall view of how the strategic goals are reflected in the portfolio. Institute appropriate governance management. So whatever targets are set, the portfolio will develop a governance mechanism for the portfolio, and that would be rules of investment decision making, financial decisions, how much benefit a project should be bringing to the organization. And according to that, he will assign resources to those projects which are most beneficial to the organization. And if portfolio management is working that way, it will bring value. It will bring value to the organization. It will, increase your profits. How does program management does it? Using program management, organizations have the ability to align multiple projects for optimized or integrated cost, schedule, effort, and benefits. You see, programs are run for the benefit realization, and this benefit realization is for the program. But if it is optimized, these multiple projects which are being run under the program, they are optimized, and their cost, schedule, and effort is most efficiently managed, then the financial benefit will also be more, and business value will increase. Program management focuses on project interdependencies and helps to determine the optimal approach for managing and realizing the desired benefits. As far as the project management is concerned, how do they bring the business value? Organizations have the ability to apply knowledge, skills, processes, tools, and techniques that enhances the likelihood of success over a wide range of projects. So if you are following some standard, some knowledge base, some processes, skills, tools, and techniques, then you are actually bringing consistency to your projects and a chance of efficiency, better performance, more profits. Project management focuses on the successful delivery of products, services, and results. Within programs and portfolios, projects are a means of achieving organization strategy and objective. Whatever the program and portfolio is planning, project is a tool which is actually realizing those values for the program and portfolio and ultimately for the whole business. Similarly, the organizational enablers, the structural, cultural, technological, and human resource practices, organizations can further facilitate the alignment of these portfolio, program, and project management activities by strengthening the organizational enablers. If organizational structure and culture and technology and all that are made more suitable for running portfolios, programs, and projects, then it will be a smooth ground to run on. Therefore, organizational enablers can also contribute positively towards adding the business value. So, effective realization, organizations can achieve successful transitions within the portfolio, program, and project domains and attain effective investment management and business value realization. How? By continuously conducting portfolio strategic alignment and optimization, performing business analysis, impact analysis, and developing robust organizational enablers. So it is a summary of all. It will continuously conduct portfolio strategic alignment. So portfolio will be contributing, and we will be doing the business impact analysis, and ultimately we will be developing the organizational enablers, and ultimately there will be effective realization. So this is business value. Any questions so far?
No, sir. It's clear, sir.
Wonderful. Okay, as far as the role of the project manager is concerned, this is divided into two parts: responsibilities and competencies, and the interpersonal skills. In an organization, there could be two roles, I would say operational roles, rather functional or operational. There is a functional manager and there is a operational manager, or there is a functional staff or operational staff. What is the difference between functional and operational? Operational people are those people who are basically running the show. They are the hardcore experts in that area which the business is running. If you are having a cement factory, then people who are working in production of the cement, in making of the cement, are all operational staff. Those people who are facilitating the functioning of the whole operation, like the HR manager, the finance manager, and other several positions who are not directly involved with the production of the cement, but they are facilitating the operations, are called functional staff. So these are two permanent positions. So these two permanent positions are more operational in nature, but naturally we do have change oriented assignments in which we want to bring change to the organization, and for every change, whether it is through program or portfolio, ultimately we will have the projects running. And for running a project, we need to have a project manager. So project manager is the person assigned by the performing organization to lead the team that is responsible for achieving the project objectives. And project objectives are those challenges, those targets which have been given to the project manager to achieve. So project manager is a temporary position for a temporary job. When the job is finished, project manager is no more. But functional and operational managers are going to remain, because the operational people are actually running the show and functional people are facilitating them. Project manager is a temporary position who is responsible for bringing changes to the operational or functional. Project managers may be placed under the functional manager or the portfolio manager or the program manager, depending upon the type of organization structure you have. So, as I was saying, project manager may be, depending upon the organizational structure, may be reporting to the functional manager, program or portfolio manager. He works very closely with the programs and portfolio managers as if the project objectives are achieved, and also to ensure the project management plan is aligned with the overarching program plan if there is a program on top. So if project is under a program or a portfolio, then it has to ensure that whatever he is doing, project manager, it must be aligned with the next level. And if it is directly under the strategy of the organization, then it must ensure that strategic objectives are properly aligned. Also works closely and in collaboration with other roles, like there are business analysts, and there is a role of business analyst throughout the a project is run, because business analyst is involved in this initiative even before the project was born. Then there are company level quality assurance people and subject matter experts. They will also interact with the project manager on and off. Responsibilities and competencies of a project manager. Project manager is responsible for satisfying not only the task needs, the activities he is doing, they should be performed well, but he must also look after the team needs. Whatever equipment or resources they need to have, they must be provided, and also